The visit continues into the Room of Heliodorus. This is where the pontiffs held their private audiences with ambassadors and kings. It was the second room frescoed by Raphael, and the entire decoration, not by chance, has purely political ends. Its 4 frescoes were meant to show how, over the course of centuries, God had always protected Rome, the faith, the Pope, and his works. To show how God watched over the faith, Raphael painted on one of the short ends of the room an episode known as the bolsena Mass. The fresco tells the story of a priest who doubted that the bread and wine offered at Mass could be transformed into the body and blood of Christ. According to legend, at the moment of the consecration, the corporal, a white linen cloth that was on the altar, became stained with blood. The episode created such a panic that the Cathedral of Orvieto was founded to preserve the corporal as well as starting the religious holiday of Corpus Domini. The fact that Raphael was asked to depict this particular event was also not by chance. During that period, many doubts were being raised regarding church dogmas, and the church used the artist's work to calm the waters. The figure kneeling at the right is none other than Pope Julius II, who had ordered the work. He assists at Mass along with cardinals of the papal court. On the wall in front is the story of Saint Leo the Great, who stopped Attila, king of the Huns. This served to show how God had also protected Rome, the Pope's city, over the course of history. When Attila reached Italy, he quickly marched on Rome. Pope Leo the Great decided to meet him, and, according to legend at least, it was during this very meeting that Saints Peter and Paul, armed with swords, appeared miraculously. And so it was that the king of the Huns gave up the idea of invading Rome. Raphael chose Rome for his scene design, showing the Colosseum and an aqueduct in the background, even though the meeting actually took place in Mantua, a city in northern Italy. Pope Julius II died just as Raphael was finishing this fresco, so the artist decided to use the new pope, Leo X, as the model for Saint Leo the Great. Oddly enough, Pope Leo X appears twice in the scene, both as the Pope and as one of the cardinals in the Pope's entourage. This probably is because the artist had already painted the face on the cardinal before the death of Julius II. The Liberation of St. Peter is a fresco designed to remind man that God has always protected the popes. Raphael wanted to pay homage to Pope Julius II after his death, and so gave St. Peter the Pope's face. The setting is dark and dramatic. The play of light and shadow reveals the miracle. A shackled St. Peter is freed of his chains by an angel, while the guards outside fall into a deep sleep. It's almost dawn. The sun is about to rise and the torches burn brightly, but even brighter is the angel that saves St. Peter, which could also be interpreted as the deceased pope being accompanied into the hereafter. The last fresco from which the room gets its name is the Expulsion of Heliodorus from the temple. It narrates the Old Testament episode in which the Assyrian prince Heliodorus, after having tried to take over the treasure of the Temple of Jerusalem, is beaten and banished by 3 angels. The scene illustrates how God has protected the church's patrimony through history. Raphael also chose this episode to illustrate the fear that reigned in Rome during his time. In fact, the French were planning an invasion, and this certainly presented a threat to the temporal power of the popes. The Temple of Jerusalem is represented as St. Peter's Basilica, and here too is Julius II, seated on a throne at the left. He seems to watch the biblical scene almost as though he were a spectator from another time. In this fresco, the twisted and suffering bodies on the right, as well as the dramatic nature of the scene, clearly mirror the artistic influence of another great painter and Raphael's contemporary, Michelangelo. It seems that Raphael was able to sneak a peek at the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel that Michelangelo, incredibly possessive of his own work, was painting in complete solitude. and thus rumors at the time hinted that Raphael had been inspired by some of the work he had seen there.